Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me? Yeah. Is my voice is clear to you? So we have been seeing how we can start implementing the incremental loads as part of your scoop implementation. Okay. Now, all the kind of select scoop loads, whatever we have done, or you call them as imports, these all things were done practically in the criteria and composition of what I can say is to the file system. Okay, whatever we have done is a file system. Where the file system can be anything that is fundamentally like your HDFS or anything that is basically acting as a warehouse directory for the sake of your Hive environment. Okay, now we can do imports fundamentally to the Hive directly. The only thing you need to always remember is the kind of data that you're fundamentally transferring to the criteria of the location where you're already trying to put your Hive configured. These tables and the data types mappings should be done either by us or by Scoop. Automatically they'll happen. So if you feel that Scoop can take a better decision in these particular constructs, you can always just leave it. That's not an issue. But technically you want to make the things happen from your side, then under such kind of circumstances, we need to just look into the process very carefully. Okay. So I'm just trying to show you implementing Scoop imports to Hive as tables. Okay. So that's what we just want to make the criteria to get associated with. Okay. Now there are multiple types of imports. Basically, at least a simple Hive import you should understand. Are you getting me? So what is the methodology we are using here? Now why I'm calling simple Hive import is there's no great complication behind what we are actually trying to do. Okay. So your basic criterias are always the same. You connect to your root environment, start your big data servers, and everything is same. Okay, there's no fundamental change in this. So you'll directly go with the rule of the location where your server is available, and then you'll check a environment where you're given permissions to connect to your Hive and start working with the similar strategies and standards. So I just want to make the things same to what we have been implementing in the previous case. So I just want to say that is cleaning, but I just want to say like, so here step 01. Okay, now we are saying connecting to Hive. Okay, so that's first we'll connect to the root user from the console as far as a virtual box is concerned. Okay, now in your industry it could be something different. You need to understand. Now I'm switching to one of the user where I have permissions to operate with my Hive. And we already know that if technically Hive is not basically started or your MapReduce servers are not running, then getting into Ambari, correcting the process and everything is same. Okay, whatever we have been discussing in the previous levels. So I'm just trying to switch directly to my Hive environment. So you can just watch here. That's a root console. I'm opening up another console and I'm saying here Hive. Okay. Now here let us check whether we can connect to Hive or not. So I just want to keep this. Now here I'm just trying to check. We should. I'm checking whether my Hive is actually running or not. Okay, that's looking fine then. So for the sake of making scoop imports to happen, I'm creating a separate database now. Okay, so these are the default databases we have. But I'm just trying to create a separate database so that we can just keep the scoop imports there. Am I clear with you? So here I'm just trying to use a command called as, you know very well, already we have discussed these things in Hive database. And then I'm just trying to say skys underscore scoop. Okay. Now that name can be anything. Just keep that in your mind. Now, technically, you're creating a database with a name called as skys scoop. Now that's done. And if you're just trying to say show databases, it should show that in the list. Okay. I'll just try to keep this for your document for reference. Okay. We are creating this database only for the sake of testing the Hive imports. And then we are fundamentally trying to just confirm the database is existing or not. Got it? Now, once that has happened, now we are going with the next level. Now, here you can create a table. You can just pick up the criteria and composition of selecting, operating, everything. I think as far as your Hive is concerned, you remember whatever we have done. So, once this database is available, now you can just watch here. I'm now going for the sake of my Hive importing. Okay, so that's step 02, implementing the Hive imports. Okay, now it's a very simple import we are doing, and that too we are trying to do with the criteria and composition of the managing tables. Okay, we are just trying to keep it into the fundamental tables that are part of the Hive metadata store. Be very, very clear about that. So it's not too complicated. You know already how to implement your scoop import statements previously. Almost all of the same connectivity, the things will go where you're connecting to your corresponding MySQL database or any database to which you are given the connector. That's first point you need to check. and then giving the corresponding username and password in the tables what you want, and you want to make an high fundamental criteria of the process, you can just do that. Okay, so as it is. So by this time I hope you are very clear and well versed with the scoop import statements. Okay, those command options, okay, that's a continuous reference you need to remember. Now, for the sake of interviews, you should definitely have an idea on every command option. Once you get into your industries, you just definitely follow the documentation that's going to be given to you. Scoop has its own documentation where it's very clear what command options can be used for which particular purpose. So we don't need to really worry about that. Okay. So we are just trying to go with the implementing the Hive import on managed table. Okay, you know what are managed tables? So I'm just going with my construct. You can just watch here. I'll pick up the scoop import statement what we used to have previously, and I'll make changes on this so that you can just understand very easily. Okay. So your JDBC connectivity will be the same because you're trying to get the data from MySQL. Now my username is the same, retail DBA. The corresponding password what you're fundamentally trying to give is exactly the same. Now here, after this password has been given, we are just not trying to use anything with the select statement construct. Okay, this part I'm just trying to eliminate. Now here I want to mention the table. Okay, I'm saying my table what I'm going to basically import is order items. Okay, then what kind of import you want to do? I want to do the import of Hive import. Now here you should always understand, when you are saying you want to go for Hive import, now from your scoop to Hive and scoop to MySQL, proper connectors should be configured. If your configuration is not in a very proper way, as a developer, it's basically none of your business. You'll put the request and raise a ticket to your higher level administrators, just giving the concern with a screenshot of the error what you're fundamentally trying to get, and they'll take care of it. But in your personal machines, when you're fundamentally working, you should have a very clear, proper configured and integrated connector between the MySQL and Scoop, and from Scoop to Hive. Am I clear with you? So just keep that point very clear. Now, if you want to do a Hive import, then within the Hive, first we should always honor the database, the Hive database where we want to do it. So I'm giving my Hive database. Okay. Now give the database name. Now the database name is something what you have created just now according to the classroom session. And if it is your industry, you'll be having a documentation where you have to do Hive imports to which database is privileged for you. Okay. So in a fundamental day-to-day streaming and day-to-day imports that are done for a large-scale company, you may be having hundreds of databases or sometimes thousands of databases on which you need to go on doing different kinds of imports from different databases coming from the RDBMS side. So you could be having a list within the documentation, and through the documentation, whatever they are providing you, that you need to replace it there. And majority of the time when you deal with production side implementation, you have a automated scripts that are designed, and we just pass all these things as parameters via the Linux or Unix scripts that have been written. Okay, anyhow, that's beyond the constructive classroom to discuss, but you can just understand the basic structure, because the all integration part and automation criteria will not be asked to you, because you're saying you're a core developer, that definitely that syntax will be definitely discussed in the interview room. So just remember that. Okay, so that's my Hive database. Then within the Hive, you want to go for which table? So I'm saying hyphen Hive table. Okay, now here I just want to give the table name. It's basically same as my order items. Okay, I'm just taking the same name of the table so that I can just understand the kind of table I am trying to import into my Hive environment. And then if this table is having any kind of say like previous data, if it's having any kind of previous data, then definitely it will get overwritten. But this is the first time we are loading, so let us not worry about that. Now you can just watch here. I'm saying after that the number of mappers you want to control. So I'm just trying to say num hyphen mappers, and you're saying 2. Okay. Now I told you if you don't mention this, default is 4. Now you can control your mappers according to your convenience of choice, and majority of the times, depending on the resources that are available and the kind of environment that is existing, your admins will definitely in production side they'll do some changes to some kind of parameters definitely. Okay, so just don't worry about that. Now once your criteria of the scoop import statement is ready, this is the first time loading what we're basically trying to do. Just check out. Okay. Now, if you're coming from my basic data warehousing environments, where we know that when we do any imports into the data warehouses or loads, okay, data loads into the data warehouses, we have first time loading and ongoing loading. So we are doing just the first time loading. So let's not worry about that. Now I'm just connecting to another console just for our convenience. Okay, I just, we will be working on multiple different kinds of consoles just to keep ourselves convenient and not to have any confusion. So I'm just going with, I'm just trying to go with my HDFS user. Then let me say scoop here. It's not fundamentally necessary sometimes, but I'm just doing it. Then I'm just moving down. Okay, if we are having permissions, it should technically try to move in. We know very well that HDFS also has permissions to Hive, and Hive environment, Hive user also has permissions to Hive. So we just move on. But I doubt whether the Hive user in Linux is having permission to the scoop. Okay, therefore, and MySQL. Therefore, I was just not preferring that user. I'm preferring the user called as HDFS. Here there are certain things that are fundamentally happening. You should always understand. Actually, what has happened currently is your scoop has imported everything into one temporary file. Okay, Hive import has not yet started. Now Hive import is fundamentally starting. Are you getting me? So what scoop does is, first it will take your data that is fundamentally existing in MySQL and keeps the data in a temporary location by doing the scoop import into that file first of all. It could be one file or it's split into multiple files. Means whatever we have done till now, in the same construct, it will first keep all your data into one select file system location. And once the total file system location data transfer has been completed by using the corresponding MapReduce implementation that's happening in the background. Okay. So it is first doing the load into one location of the file system, and after that entire load is completed, after that entire loaded into that particular temporary location is completed, then it starts the Hive import. Then starts the Hive import, means taking the data from the temporary location of that file system where the data was kept, and from there it's doing the job of putting the things into the Hive table. Okay, so it's using the file system as a staging area. Am I clear with you? Am I clear with you? So why he's doing like this? See, when architecture is designed, the criteria is very specific now. When we execute a load, we are expecting that particular load to be totally completed with a success state. Now, because it's a classroom, maybe you have done some criteria and composition of 1,000 records or 2,000, that doesn't matter. But in real-time big data projects, we are doing a load that is fundamentally going to contain millions of records or sometimes trillions of records. So what basically happens here is to see that the load is done in a very proper way and overall load failure is not taking place. They have designed the hive in such a way, they have designed this particular criteria of the scoop imports in such a way that it keeps the data first into the file system, and from there the imports can be done into the actual hive. If suppose any failures are taking place, we can reschedule those kind of imports once again. So they have their own architectural concerns. You need to always understand that. And second thing is, in millions and trillions of data when you're loading, uh, now data consistency is one part, and the criteria of the fail-safe architecture. So if I'm putting my data into HDFS environment, you know very well that replicas are automatically created. For every byte of data you're sending in, it has its own replica. Because the data is under a replication state within the HDFS, even if any one of the data packet or the block is corrupted, then immediately that particular block will get replaced and your fundamental hive imports will never be a failure. Am I clear with you? So now once this is done, you can directly go and cross verify whether this data actually came into your hive environment or not. And second thing is, the database where you're operating, there the table also should be created. So I'm just trying to say, use this database, whatever we are having. Now here I'm trying to say show tables. Now you can just watch the table is created, and then I'm saying select star from that table, and a corresponding data has come in. So that's a very simple hive import what you have fundamentally executed. So you can just make your criteria of verification. So at your hive prompt, the database what we are having is chi-scoop, then 2 show tables, then 3 select star from the order items. Okay, whatever table name you have given on that particular table, it's just completing the load. Okay, that fundamentally gives you the details. Now here you should always, one thing you should understand, this is the first time load what we have done. Am I clear with you? Now let's go with the for your fundamental convenience. Okay, so now I just want to say this as ongoing loading. With overwriting. So one method is we are trying to run the command with the criteria and composition of overwriting. So here you will say the same thing, hive table, order items, and then you're just going with the criteria of saying here hive overwrite. Okay, that's what you're fundamentally trying to say. Okay, now just let us go with this once again. Watch here. Just check. Okay. My file level transfer is completed or import is completed. I just wanted to watch there. And one very interesting case is, you watch here. First, it is removing the data that was previously there and sending it to the trash. Are you watching that? Scoop is automatically doing that. The previous data that was there in the table was pushed into the trash by executing the MapReduce commands in the backend from the warehouse directory where actually your Hive was configured. And then it started loading it. Okay, you lost your previous data, you got it, even though it's the same data what I've loaded. Okay, that's the secondary case. You need to just understand these constructs very carefully. So in this particular case, what is happening, I just want you to catch up. Okay, there are certain things I just want you to keep as a note. One, connectors between MySQL to Scoop to HDFS okay to Hive should be properly configured and integrate. Okay, that should be done very perfectly. The second point is, Scoop first executes the import of the data into HDFS file system with the help of MapReduce framework. Okay, MapReduce paradigm using the Hadoop framework. Okay, into a temporary location. Are you getting me? Third, once the file system load is successful, it initiates data import to Hive database. Okay, that's how it's happening. Where the HDFS is acting as a runtime staging area. Entire data to be loaded. Okay, be very clear about that. The fourth point you should always keep it in your mind is, if not specifically mentioned, target table will be created in the Hive database, and then the data load is initiated. Okay, the fifth point, the default loading of the data is considered as the target table is empty. Okay, the default it's fundamentally considering is the target table is empty and moves on for the data load. But that's what is happening in this case. All those points are same. The only thing I want to keep yourself here as note, when we use the command option, this one, okay, when we use this command option override, then scoop executes following steps. One, the file system staging load is completed first. Okay, that part is same. I'm not repeating that once again. Okay. Two, before initiating the data load into Hive table, it deletes the previous data in the Hive table along with the warehouse directory location for the file. Okay, files. Third, the deleted data from the warehouse directory is kept in the trash. Okay, trash directory of HDFS, and there it follows a retainment policies and all these things which I've already discussed long back in HDFS. Okay, so that's basically happening. Then fourth, starts loading the data fresh into the table. Am I clear with you? Starts loading the data fresh into the table. So that's what is fundamentally happening. Now you want to go for your verification. It's the same criteria once again. Now rather than this collect the star, what I say is better try to use something like a count star or count one that can just give you more easy and more quick way of understanding whether your data is loaded or not. Okay, I'll just take a count once again here. Okay, so that's the amount of data what you're having. Are you getting me? So now, instead of saying overwrite, let us say, okay, just watch very carefully. Ongoing loading with select appending. It means I don't want to lose my previous data and I just want to go along with it. Okay, now you just watch here. I'm giving the same order items table, whatever is there, and I'm just removing this. Okay, overwrite. Okay, when I'm not mentioning any overwrite here, and I'm just putting the load once again. I just wanted to watch. Where my table is already having the data. Okay, you just watch my previous data anywhere it is not touched. Okay, does not touched anywhere our previous data. Means what is happening? Watch carefully. I'm executing the same count once again. Previously, we had somewhere around 1,72,198 records, and that became double. You watch here. Means it's a very clear proof that it is appending. Default is appending. Are you catching the point? Are you catching the point? So, when we do not use the command option hive override, then scoop the file system staging load is completed. Before initial data load into hive table, it cross verifies the hive table for the status of empty or previously loaded. Okay, it will check that status. Okay, if previously loaded, then by default executes the append on the existing data, append on the existing table. Okay, capturing current load as new records. Now here you should not get confused. I'm removing this. You should not get confused here. In Hive-like environment, we don't have any primary keys and all these things. Okay, therefore the data can get duplicated. These all things are there. Now that you need to cross verify before you load it. Okay, am I clear with you? So that's your fundamental point you should always recognize. Now I think verification is very simple. So I don't think any Hive imports are looking complicated, man. Can you handle them? So there are a few more things that we need to finalize and we need to shape out before we can just leave through the construct of Hive import. There are a few more constructs in Hive import we need to cross verify. Okay, but first try these simple imports from your side such that I can just make you get up with the next level of the imports on Scoop. with Hive implementation in next 24 hours. Okay. Thank you very much. Once again with you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Take care of yourself.